Hello everybody and welcome to Why It's Great. In this video, I'm breaking down the first 2 episodes of the brand new Apple TV Plus series, Lisey's Story. This will be very much a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't yet seen the first 2 episodes, you can go right on over here to find a non-spoiler review. Lisey's Story, the series, is a very faithful retelling of the 2006 novel. I think it's pretty clear from these first 2 episodes that the filmmakers are leaning heavily into the themes of the novel. As with many Stephen King stories, the threats, antagonists, and boogeymen are metaphors for the horrors of real life. The brilliant thing about how Stephen King scares us is that he pairs the supernatural with the supernormal. The Shining is about alcoholism, turning loved ones into murderers. Carrie is about the strangeness of adolescence. And with Lisey's story, one's own memories become the monster, stalking her in stops and starts, overtaking her at any moment. And a marriage becomes its own little world, just for the 2 of them. But I'll say more about that in the next video. There are some wonderful Easter eggs and allusions to other King works so far. Perhaps the most obvious one is this Charlie the Choo Choo book in the library. There's The Lighthouse, which screams Storm of the Century to me. The Crow in episode 2, which points to the dark half in the gunslinger. The idea of a crazy fan stalking a writer harkens back to Misery. The score has The Shining vibes towards the end. As I stated in my previous review, director Pablo Larraín, best known for his work on the 2016 film Jackie, absolutely destroys this adaptation. I mean, crushes it out of the smucking park. The visuals are both stunning and effectively sinister when they need to be. Other shots that I absolutely loved were where the characters obstruct the sun. This gives beautiful lens flares, but also serves as a kind of spotlight on the characters in the scene. It's almost as if they're stepping into destiny, or something like that. I mean, that's just how I interpreted it. Another interpretation could be that this is meant to be some sort of a spotlight, a searchlight. Someone or something is watching them. Someone can see them. Someone is looking for them. Episode 1 begins straight away with a cinematic vignette of memories, effectively setting up the theme that memory will be the chief antagonist, or at least the chief theme of this story. We are then immediately thrust visually into the chief dynamic of this novel and this show. Lisey, as the widow of a famous author, now has to contend with the office of her dead husband. The office is full of boxes that contain old manuscripts that are unpublished, things that eventually will serve right into the plot of the story. We are also introduced right away to the Bool hunt, this kind of posthumous scavenger hunt, where she finds the very first clue, the shovel, straight away. I mean, in the novel, it takes like 100 pages for her to find this thing. Immediately after that, Lisey gets a phone call from her sister Amanda, where she begins her spiral downward into a catatonic state. Amanda's condition is a huge part of the novel, and yet again, we're getting this information in these scenes right away. It is an extremely economical way to set up the world, set up the chess pieces of the plot, so that things can get moving a little bit faster than they do in the novel. Another theme of the story is self-harm, and I love how unsettling it is to watch Julianne Moore drive and bang her head against the window. And this scene is a great example of the frame within a frame I talked about earlier. Frame within a frame, of course, is a cinematic device that shows that your characters are trapped or feeling pressure from all sides. They move away from the camera, making them smaller and smaller in the frame. The camera also subtly looks down on them, all of which visually communicates a powerlessness that these characters feel. And in the very next cut from that shot, we see Lisey obstructing the sun, leading to this shot with the amazing sun flares. So far, shot by shot by shot in this pilot, we're seeing great filmmaking on display and visual metaphors, all communicating something and serving to build the visual themes of the story. I think it's brilliant. The rest of this first episode is more of the same. Great shots, frames within frames, lighting within shots that acts like spotlights, memories, glimpses of some other world, water, all things that are ripped straight out of the book, sometimes even word for word.
Yes, missus.
Can you hear me?
You're a little low pitch, but yes, I can hear you.
Go fuck yourself.
There is one scene that is an exception to that, though, the scene in the library. It visually communicates how unpredictable and scary this character is. It helps set up for us his unhinged mental state and shows us right from the first episode that this character is dangerous. And my God, Dane DeHaan is great in this. This is the performance of his career. Absolutely stunning. Now on to episode 2. Episode 2 retains the visual style and the feel established in episode 1. We get the introduction of the crow. This serves as foreshadowing for the unsettling event that is to come. Again, water is important to the story for reasons we'll get to in future episodes, but I think it's very subtle that Amanda, when she's looking at the Hollyhock's boat, is holding a bottle of water. Just something to notice. As with episode 1, almost everything in the next several scenes is ripped completely out of the book, which makes sense since King wrote them himself. I mean, if it ain't broke in your mind, why fix it? The show also has some subtle and brilliant ways to use sound design and the score. There's a scene with some frantic, frenetic, rhythmic sound that reminded me of what a trapped bird would sound like. I mean, that's what I heard in my mind. Dane DeHaan's character is walking through the house, and you're hearing these bird sounds, and I didn't know what he was doing with the microwave, with the fridge, but the sounds was cluing me in that something sinister was happening. This worked as a sort of audio foreshadowing. And then cut to a few minutes later in the show, and there's a dead crow in a mailbox. That kind of foreshadowing in sound design is not something I've experienced before, and I loved how subtle it was and how much it played into the unsettling feel of the show. Now, obviously, the book has a whole lot more to all of the scenes that we see in the first 2 episodes. One thing the show hasn't really fully had the time to unpack and solidify is the marriage of Lisey and Scott. The book is chock full of their sort of second-hand insider marriage language that they had between them. In addition to words like bool and blood bool, the book has words and phrases like inkunks, soisa, strap it on, smuck instead of the F-bomb, and many, many more idiosyncratic little phrases. These things really help make their marriage feel alive and relatable in the book. But I'm not sure that they fully translate to this series. Not only are they not really all that present in these first 2 episodes, but when they show up, they don't really get the context they really deserve to be effective. These first 2 episodes of Lisey's story are absolutely gorgeous, full of incredible performances, poignant themes, and masterful filmmaking. It's dark, gritty, bloody, and unnerving, and I'm excited to continue diving into it week by week. Let me know in the comments what you thought about Lisey's story, and if you think I missed something that I should have covered here. And if you'd like to read the book, you can get a copy of the audiobook for Lisey's story and another audiobook of your choice absolutely free on Audible using the link in the description. Thanks again for watching, thanks to the patrons, and I'll catch you in the next video.